quite religious, and they all also want to die because they believe in going to heaven. Well, most transhumanists take on either an agnostic or an atheist perspective,
right.
and they just simply see, when they die, that's the end. Well, they want to preserve that. And so ultimately, the book argues a philosophy that says you should try to use science and technology. If you don't believe in either a higher power or in an afterlife, you should use science and technology to try to live forever. And most of the book is very philosophical. It leads you through some of these arguments. And eventually the reader is left with this idea, well, wow, these are pretty convincing arguments. And that's where the controversy comes from. It's been called a very anti-religious book. I'm not sure I would say it that way, but I see it more as just a philosophical kind of manuscript that leads someone through why they might want to live indefinitely and what they need to do about it.
Okay, let me ask you this. What about all right, we have these people who are living forever. What about the strain on the system, the strain on the planet, this food supply, the medical? How does this work? Because you still have people being born. What happens?
Right, no,
do we suffer from population overload?
Yeah, no, and this is probably one of the most central issues that a lot of people have with both the transhumanist movement and also with what life extension science is really doing, is that, wow, if everyone lives to 150 or everyone lives indefinitely, eventually we're going to be incredibly overpopulated. We basically already are. And, so the transhumanists, and I would say, as I argue in my book as well, that what's going to happen here is in 20 or 30 years, we're going to have the technology to upload our brains into computers. And we're also going to have the technology of we're going to essentially achieve artificial intelligence here in probably 10 to 20 years as well. So there's a number of different technologies that are going to arrive all in the same time in the next few decades. So you can imagine if everyone uploads themselves, become digital avatars of themselves, frankly, many people argue that it'll be safer to live inside a computer, to literally leave behind your biological flesh. We would have literally a clone of our mind, of our brains, and create ourselves inside machines. So we'd be the same people, same memories, same thoughts, these kind of things. But we wouldn't be using the Earth's resources. We'd probably just have one single, solar panel or something like that can potentially actually, energize the entire world. And I'm talking about something like the size of the Empire State Building, fitting in, 1 million people. Just have the entire building filled with servers and just, digital avatars of ourselves running around inside.
Let me ask you this.
So that's one way that we might have, less usage of resources.
Well, let me ask you this. What happens in the case of a magnetic pole shift where, the positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive, and all the machinery that we have on Earth that uses electricity or motors ceases? What happens to the people inside the computer?
An excellent question. And I as much as I trump my horn about how positive a lot of this is, I realize that there's an incredible amount of dangers.
Sure.
One of the big things you talk about with viruses, what if the entire population was inside a computer and got a virus and no one could stop it? I mean, it's the same sort of thing here on the planet. And you're right. What if something happened with the planets? What if an asteroid came and we were, so hopefully there would be a section of the population that might choose to upload themselves. There would be a section of the population that would, go out of their way to guarantee that the Earth continued nicely, using less resources. There'd be a section of the population that worried mostly about space travel. They would go off and explore the universe. Hopefully, from a biological perspective, we would diversify our endeavors. And so you would have virtually many different types of existences as a human being or as a transhumanist being. And so that way, should something like the polarization or whatever happen, not everyone would be lost. I think everyone hopefully would have a free choice on which direction they want to go, and the science and the technology would enable them to make better choices in how they want to live their lives, especially when we talk about living indefinitely.
So would this be something that the rich would have asset to and the poor would just have to suffer and die mortal deaths?
So, I'm a big proponent of the concept that technology actually enables everyone. In fact, I just wrote an article about this for the Huffington Post. It's called The Biggest Worry About Transhumanism. And I get this question a lot where people say, well, hey, the elite are going to take over. The rich are just going to leave the poor behind. But
they're doing that now anyway, so what's the difference?
They are, but at the same time, some things like phone technology, vaccinations, cars, all these things have become so cheap that you can find even the poorest on the planet, let's say in Mali in Africa, they're using cell phones. So hopefully, and I'm a proponent of it. I know some people aren't. I believe the technology will trickle down and make people live better lives.
It may, but it may have the adverse reaction as well. It could cause more harm than good.
It could. And I hope, no matter what happens with technology and science, that, people will be careful with it. More talk, more radio interviews of this will take place where people just actually say, well, how far does society really want to take this? I mean, clearly everyone wants to use science and medicine to live better, to protect their children and stuff like that. But do we want it to destroy us? These are, fundamental, incredible philosophical questions that I hopefully only civilization can answer. And I think the more people that talk about and know about this kind of technology, we'll have a better chance of dealing with it properly, so we don't do anything, I guess, mighty stupid with the species.
So basically, you're in total agreement with the 2045 initiative.
I am mostly I am in total agreement with it. I'm not going to say entirely, but I do support it.
My opinion is that technology is the drug of choice of the future, and we're seeing that in today's society with the total bombardment of data and the amount of information that humans are accessible to. And I really don't believe that at this time in our evolution that we are capable of processing all the information that we are inundated with each and every minute of the day.
Well, I think you're right. You're definitely right. It's an overload for me. I can tell you that. I answer way too many emails a day, and I can't figure out all the time what's going on anymore. However, I want to tell you that there are now hundreds of millions of dollars being put into companies that are actually putting chips into people's heads. Yeah. They're already using it for medical purposes. They have robotic limbs that are now attaching to nervous systems, so amputees can actually feel with their robotic arms. It's really just a matter of time before we are able to at least connect to machines. And hopefully, again, this is just being very positive. I realize there are so many dangers. We might be able to interpret and take in much more information in the next 20 years than we could today with the assistance of chips in our heads and stuff like that.
But what are we seeing? Are we seeing the end of the human race? Are we giving way to total technology and saying goodbye to humanism? That's pretty sad.
So, Ron, I do believe that we are saying goodbye to it. It's going to be slow. There's not going to be a quick jump. I think, it's sort of like driving a car. At some point, we said,
Zoltan, I've got to take my break. Please stand by. Exo Nation. Zoltan Istvan is our special guest, transhumanist, wager.com. And we'll be back on the other side of the short break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Zoltan Istvan is our special guest, www.transhumanistwager.com. It's a rather interesting concept. Machines or computers taking over the very essence and soul of a human so that the human can basically live forever. I have concerns that science or those who can afford it are taking way too much control of the human race. We can't get along now with other philosophies, with other religions. We've got wars and it seems like we're going to be going back to Iraq. It's just a lot to expect of the human race to say, all right, I want to give up my body. I want to become an avatar. I want to live in virtual reality because why? Just to live longer?
Well, my primary reason, and I would say the number one reason of most transhumanists is, yes, to live longer. I'm just a group of people that don't want to die. But I'm also, I'm a techno-optimist. I believe that science and technology will actually help eliminate wars. We will help eliminate diseases. It will make it so that it actually empowers the individual, gives them information, instantly. So far, it's been very, technology so far has been very helpful in bringing about a lot of democracy. Now, I know a lot of that democracy may not actually translate to democracy when it concerns the elites. However, there's a lot of people that have had improved lives over the last 20, 30 years, at least according to, United Nations reports and stuff like that, because of technology. So I'm hopeful that maybe something like that will happen. And I'm also hopeful that there's a whole new, a breed of entrepreneurs that are out there, young people, Mark Zuckerberg, that are younger, that they don't have the same kind of ambitious ideas where they want to take over the world and just, live in the gazillion-dollar homes. I think they actually care about people. They're going to be like Bill Gates and try to eliminate malaria and really dedicate a lot of their resources towards the human race. I'm hopeful.
Let me ask you this. We're talking about in about 25 years, this transhumanist situation occurring. We can't even cure cancer. How can anyone expect that this concept of transhumanism from human to computer is all that it's made out to be?
Well, a wonderful question, Ron, because, again, you just have my opinion on the radio, and I have the opinion I get from a lot of discussions with people. It's very difficult to say. I'm I actually don't believe a lot of the things until I see it.
Right.
And yet we're having this conversation where, I don't know where you're in Canada and I'm here in California somewhere, and we're able to, talk over the radio waves. I think we had told somebody 200 years ago, hey, I'm going to have this conversation. There's going to be millions of listeners to it and whatnot. It would have sounded crazy. And you're right, we haven't cured cancer yet, but we have virtually in every field of cancer, every form of cancer, extended lives so dramatically that while we haven't actually came up with a cure for it, not that many, there's a lot less people dying from it at a young age than used to be the case. Now,